Welcome back to the Debt to Success Review channel. Want to talk about Freedom Extras. This is where they really hit you up for some money. The Federal Pure Trust Contract Organization. If you read all this, it sounds good. It sounds bulletproof. Mark has put together these trusts. He actually says that he got the trusts from a man who was basically suicided by the government somehow, IRS. I don't know who it was. It's a little bit cryptic about who made the trusts, but Mark is very hesitant to edit them, even if they're not clear, because he trusts the guy who's now dead and who created the trust. And he calls it a Federal Pure Trust Contract Organization. And I want to tell you a little bit about what I've learned after buying two of these for a grand whopping total of $10,000. $5,500 for the first, $4,500 for the second. Step right up and buy yours. You can still have time to fill in an inquiry below to be called by a salesperson and pitched $10,000 for two of these. He wants you to have two of them because each becomes the beneficiary of the other. Each trust becomes the beneficiary of the other, which is sketchy and not advisable. It's an old thing that people used to do. Mark said he likes to, it's kind of like an infinite loop. The government can't penetrate it, so he says. All right, the Federal Pure Trust Contract Organization, other than being difficult to say and a pain in the butt if you're trying to do anything, guess what? This thing cannot have its own bank account. And the reason is only because it has this word in it right here, pure trust. If he would take that word pure out, not trust obviously, but if he took the word pure out, then his trust would be able to get their own bank accounts and interact. They could get their own EIN number and they could get their own bank accounts. But because he put the word pure in there, you can't do it. The banks are not allowed to open a trust that is called a pure trust. That's it. Even if the trust language is a common law language trust, but it is, and so basically a pure trust, if the banks see pure in the name, they're not allowed to open it. So what you have to do is you have to get a Nevada LLC. Well, I bought the trust, I got the Nevada LLC, and I paid for it through a online website that sets up Nevada LLCs. And guess what? It was about $630, I think, to set the whole thing up. And then there was going to be a $540 per year charge because they have to continually file with the state. So you set this up and you're on the hook for $500 and some a year to pay for this and their mail forwarding and all these different things that go on. $540 is kind of how much you're going to spend. $530, $540. I can't remember exactly. Anyway, I'm giving you an overview of what you're getting into. When you set this up, these trusts have certificates, and in a lot of states, if the trusts have certificates, let me warn you, they are automatically considered by statutory law to be business trusts because businesses are what have certificates and units, that kind of thing. So trust units, capital units, businesses have certificates of units. And so states will define your trust, whether you want them to or not. If they have certificates, states will define them as a business trust. And if you did not register that business trust, then some states have $10,000 fines for not registering your business trust. So imagine setting this up with DTSS and putting a lot of money in it, putting a lot of your belongings into these two pure trust contract organizations, and then having someone come after you and having people demand that they see your trust papers and see that there might be certificates. And Mark of Freedom, granted, does say that it's a private trust, so you tell people to go jump in a lake because it's private. They're not allowed to see these things. And there's even a $250,000 fine if the trustees were to expose it, something like that. I mean, it's crazy. But so yes, it's private. But if the state says we need to see why you're doing what you're doing with your trust and make sure that your trust is a legitimate trust, and they see that there are certificates, some states, when they see their certificates, will say this is a business trust. We don't care what you titled it, but it's a business trust and you didn't register it. So guess what? You owe a $10,000 fine. So I encourage you to be very, very, very careful. I actually say, don't get it. I got it. I couldn't understand it. And as much as Mark on the phone tried to tell me how to understand the certificates, they were basically the same wording and other things about it. Oh, and one more thing. If you set up a Nevada LLC for banking, so then if you were to buy and sell stuff, you're buying and selling stuff in the name of the contract organizations, the different member contract organizations. Think of each of these as $4,500 each, or $5,500 for your first one. If you are trying to do business with those, all the checks and all the stuff is going to go through this Nevada LLC taxpayer identification number. Well, Nevada LLCs don't have to report anything, but still, if you put a piece of property into any one of these, then these don't have EINs. This has an EIN, and these don't have EINs. So how do you transfer property into one of these? This is the other problem I had. I had a piece of property I needed to put into one of these, and Mark of Freedom didn't know how to do it, and so he told me not to worry about it because the trust had the same name as this, and the bank, what he said was the purchaser of the property would write the name to this, which had the same name as this, and because they had the same name, he said, well, you'll just deposit the check into here and it will belong to this. And there's no need to change it at the county or at the city recorder's office because it's all the same name. And he was wrong. Basically, I had a company that I named this after the company that I already had. I had an S corporation, and I was supposed to take the property out of the S corporation, put it into this, and then I named this the same as the S corporation, and then I named this the same as the S corporation also. And so Mark sent me an email that had 5 or 6 contingencies. If the buyer doesn't ask about this and doesn't ask about this, and if they simply write a check to the name of the S corporation, then the money will go into here and it will belong to here. So it will be tax-free. It won't be able to be taxed, and the government won't be able to come after it. But what I found out later is what Mark didn't know is that if I don't move the property out of this S corporation over here into this, officially on the record in the city where the property was, if I don't move it from here to here properly, then the property still belongs to the S corporation, even if the S corporation is dissolved. So Mark was wrong about that. So if that was the case, then when the title company did a search on the sale of the property, then my family would have been completely screwed because Mark told us not to worry about recording, moving it from the S corporation into the pure trust contract organization that has the same name as the S corporation. And don't worry, they're going to write a check and you can deposit into this bank account that's of the Nevada LLC, and nobody will know any better, and you'll have the money, and don't worry about it. But the problem is the title company would run the record. The S corporation would be on the title search, not a trust. So they would not be allowed. The purchaser would not be allowed to write a check to the trust. They would only be allowed to write a check to an S corporation, and they would ask for the S corporation. They would do a search for the S corporation. They would get the EIN for the S corporation, which would be backed by the social security numbers that are in the in the S corporation, and my family would have been completely screwed. So when I saw this, I demanded, when I learned this, I got someone else to create a trust and not Mark. And I basically had to throw these away because they were useless. And so I paid $640 some for this, and I paid $10,000 for 2 of these, and all of it trash. Done. $10,600 and some. It was wasted. So I asked Mark for a refund because I put it on a credit card. I asked Mark for a refund, and he said, absolutely not. You don't understand how to use these. That's not my fault. They are perfectly good. Thousands of people have used them before you, and you don't get refunds. He says he delivered good trusts and good advice, and everything was perfect as is. If I hadn't been so dumb and obtuse, I would not need to do anything. And he's told me not to listen to the other trust experts about setting these things up. Don't listen to these people who say that you have to transfer the property out of the S corporation into the trust. They don't know what they're talking about, et cetera, et cetera. So I got shamed again by Mark, and oh well, I had to go to someone else, create a different trust, and then I talked to an actual attorney here in town, someone who knows the laws in my state, and we transferred the property into the brand new trust properly at the recorder's office, and it cost me $37. It was completely tax-free. The transfer was, and Mark of Freedom did not know how to do that. But now when the title company goes to find who owns the trust, who owns the property that we are selling, the title company is going to find the name of a trust, and it's not a federal pure trust contract organization. It is a regular trust, private trust that is very well set up, was very easy to read. So in later on in other videos, I will tell you lots of sources to buy trusts from that also have no tax requirements, no tax filing requirements. You won't have to deal with putting money into an LLC before you can access the money, or you don't need this LLC with a good trust. So, all right, I tell you all this stuff, and I know I'm scanning over these, just kind of rambling on this one, but you don't need these trusts. In fact, there are other trusts out there that are much, much better and safer and way less expensive. So, see you on the next video.